I want to talk very briefly about the behavior of search, and we're just going to touch on it quickly. Search, fundamentally, is an extension of our memory. It provides us with a tool and a resource that we need to access information on demand. Whereas before we had to go to a phone book to get a phone number, or call somebody to get directions, or even figure it out ourselves by using a roadmap, now we have all these things immediately available to us. And that has kind of sculpted the way that we've incorporated search into our lives. It's on our phones, it's in our children's hands. It's pretty much everywhere at this point, and it's become almost an extension of our senses in that sense. We have a cell phone with us all the time. Before that, we had a contact book with us all the time. We carried business cards. Now, we consolidate a lot of that into a digital lifestyle, and search is more or less an integral part of that. And what's interesting, if you really think about what search enables you to do, it enables you to access websites, information portals, little tidbits of information around the web that enable you to really get a sense of what you're looking for and find the best quality resource to answer a very specific question or a query. So that provides us with the first question of, how do people really discover and access websites? Well, there's this phenomenal organization, which I really encourage you to check out, called the Pew Internet and American Life Project. It's pewinternet.org. And these guys basically dedicate every waking moment of their life into researching what people do online. And there's some really powerful studies that they've put together over the last few years that illustrate the growth in the trends in terms of the adoption of search technology, internet usage in general, and a few other things. But we know from some of the more recent studies that roughly 74% of American adults ages 18 and older use the internet. That's a slight drop from a survey in April 2009, which did not include Spanish interviewers. And the Latin American market, especially pertinent here in Miami, is enormous, and it's growing every single day. At the time of that study, Pew concluded that 79% of English-speaking adults use the internet. That's a lot. That's just English-speaking adults. That's not counting for Spanish, that's not counting for Portuguese, that's not counting Japanese, that's not counting anything. That's just this study for English-speaking adults alone. So that shows you that it's become a pretty prominent presence in our lives. Some of the more conclusive data that came out of the study is, what are people doing online? This is a graph of the online activities by percentage of all American adults. You can see, obviously, using the internet is a big one on there. I'm not sure why they decided to incorporate it in this study, but at the same time, obviously, if you're going online, you're probably using the internet. But the second biggest task, and something we all know and breathe, is sending and reading email. It would be almost impossible to do business today without email in a tech-savvy world, especially if your business is dependent on a tech-based model. Slightly behind that is search engine use. So what we can conclude from that is, if we look at a compilation of all behaviors online, everything people are doing right now, search is in the top 3, and that's huge. That's a big deal, because that means there's a pretty much consistent channel for you to leverage to bring in business or generate exposure or increase your organic reach. And that's very important if you're a company that sells a service or a product or relies on geo-targeting to be found. Whether you're a Miami company that sells boutique shoes, or whether you're a national commercial cleaning services provider, you need to make sure that A, you're kind of accounting for that exposure in the relative geo-targeted region you're after. But you also need to make sure that nationally, you're going to be accessible in relation to your competition, which is what it's all about.